What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Unlock Your Potential. I'm your host, Francesco Bartolillo, and I'm super excited about today's solo episode. For anybody who's been following me on social media, you know that I've just completed my 30-day Movember fundraising challenge for men's health. And so today's episode is really just going to be centered around that 30-day challenge, the lessons I've learned from it, things that I thought maybe weren't possible and I found out they were. I listened to a bunch of podcasts and basically watched YouTube videos during a lot of my runs and that sort of thing. So I got some, valuable information and insights and quotes and a bunch of things that I want to share today. So today's episode is going to be a little bit off the cuff, a little bit of everything. It's not going to be really specific to one theme or lesson that we've done in the past. It's going to be, bouncing around all over, sharing some quotes, sharing some lessons, that sort of thing. And before we get started, I'll recap what the actual challenge was for anybody who's not familiar with what I just completed. I'm really excited. So let's get started. So just recapping my 30-day challenge, I started on November 1st, ended on November 30th. It was a 30-day Movember challenge to raise funds for men's health. So the 5 aspects of my challenge were to run 5 kilometers every single day, to cold plunge for 3 minutes or longer every single day, to not have any alcohol for the entire month, and also not have any sweets. So like pop, dessert, candy, chocolate, anything that you would think of as a sweet, that didn't include obviously like natural sugars, like fruits and that sort of thing. And then the 5th and final thing, of course, was to grow a mustache, which is part of the Movember campaign, for anybody who's, familiar with that. So those are my 5 challenges. And throughout the entire month, there was struggles, there was ups and downs, there was a bit of everything. I spent a lot of time, obviously, running every single morning for anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes, depending on the pace I was going at. So watching a lot of YouTube videos and podcasts, and trying to just take in as much information during that time as I could. I just want to share kind of some of the things that helped me be successful. I was successful in my challenge. I did complete every aspect of it, which was very rewarding when all was said and done. I just want to share some of the lessons we had. So my first thing, there's going to be 10 points that I want to cover. The first one was just talking about the biggest change I made that helped me be successful. And I think this was hands down, it's got to be one of, if not the biggest thing. And this was where I placed my phone when I went to bed. And it's something so small, but it was so massively impactful. I can't even begin to explain it. So typically when I go to bed, I have my phone on, my bedside table, which means I'm going to bed, probably scrolling most nights, just whatever, messing around on my phone. And then I put my phone there, set my alarm, and go to bed. And I knew that this was not going to be effective for me during this challenge because I was trying to wake up basically anywhere around 5:30 to 5:45 a.m. every morning. And having that phone beside me, it's just so easy to reach over and hit snooze. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, I have to move this phone. And this is something I've heard lots of other people talk about when trying to form morning habits. First thing I did was I set up my charger basically on the other side of the room and had it so when I get ready to go to bed, I put my phone in the charger, I put it on the dresser that's across the room, and I go to bed. And the reason this was so impactful was not just the fact that I'm forced to get out of bed every single morning to turn off my alarm, because obviously once you feet hit the ground, you get out and get out of bed and close the alarm, you're already standing up, you're already pretty much past the initial battle of getting out of bed. And I was right next to my light switch essentially. So then I just switch on the lights. Basically, it attacks all your sensors and you're up and you're ready to go. And so it didn't mean it was easy, but that definitely made it a lot easier. And for the mornings that my fiance wasn't getting up with me to go to the gym, I basically would turn off the alarm and immediately go to the bathroom and turn on the light in there. So just trying to hit myself with bright light early in the morning. But that all stems from having to get out of the bed to turn off the alarm. The added benefit to this that came without me even really thinking about it was in the evenings, I was now just getting into bed and going to sleep. I wasn't scrolling because I wasn't going to stand on the other side of the room and just scroll there. So I'd plug my phone in and then I'd go to bed, and, I could have the option of, I guess, reading or going to sleep. And because I was getting up so early, I just figured, all right, I might as well just go to sleep. And I found myself falling asleep quicker. I didn't feel like my brain was so wired when I was trying to actually close my eyes. And I found it just a lot more consistent. So 10 out of 10, put your phone in a different place in your room that forces you to get out of bed, hopefully close to a light switch. I can almost guarantee you this will 100% help you if you're trying to establish a morning routine like I was. So jumping over to the second thing that I thought was a massive factor in the success I had of completing this challenge, and this was the accountability piece. Having something or someone to keep you accountable when you're trying to complete a challenge or set a goal or start a new habit. And for me, it just happened to be social media. I was vlogging, so to speak, my daily journey of doing all my challenges and the aspects of my morning routine. And it was really funny that became a big motivator for me, because even though the videos were not going viral by any stretch of the imagination, you're hovering somewhere between 500 and 1,500 views, in that range regularly. You just felt as though like you had an obligation, like, oh, people are expecting my video to come out every single day, so I have to do this. I have to record it, which means I have to actually get up, which means I have to have proof of what I'm doing. And so it was almost like that extra incentive. And although that is you might consider that a lower level or shallow level form of motivation, it was really powerful for this short period of time. So for these 30 days, it was a great way to get through this challenge. Now, is that sustainable long term? Probably not. But for the purpose I needed, which was 30 days, that was huge. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to, be posting on social media if you do want to complete your own challenge. That could just mean, starting a group chat with your friends and saying, all right, guys, every single day, at the end of the day, we all have to, put in here what we completed. If you guys want to start a running challenge, or if it's a weight loss challenge, or if it's a healthy eating challenge, or whatever it is. And just having a group of people, or even one other person that you have to be accountable to every single day, because then that's where that, that almost that fear of that cognitive dissonance and that unalignment with what you're trying to do will start to creep in, and you'll be like, well, I don't want to be the one person who didn't complete the challenge, or I don't want to let this person down, so I'm going to go and do it. And that can be extra powerful on the days when you don't want to do something, or if you've gone through your day and still haven't completed whatever your challenge is, and now you have to do it late at night. And that was huge for me a couple times when I ended up not doing my cold plunge in the morning, and I ended up having to do it later on in the evening. And I was like, man, I really don't want to. And on a normal day, I probably would have just said, I'll just do one tomorrow, no big deal. But because I knew I had to get that video out, I had to do it. And so, yeah, just an accountability piece. Having someone that's going to hold you accountable and that you can share your challenge and your journey with is massive. Number 3, impact of no alcohol. So I just want to, in between the lessons, I'll talk about some of the impacts I felt while doing this challenge. When it came to no alcohol, this was a unique one for me because I'm not really a big drinker. During the week we won't normally have any drinks, and then on the weekend, unless there's like an event or a social gathering or a party or something like that, we might have 1 or 2 drinks with dinner or that sort of thing, but it's not a regular thing, so to speak. But what I did notice was, more than anything for me, it was the impact it had on my wallet. And again, this is probably because I don't drink a lot normally, so I didn't have like a health benefit from this, so to speak. Obviously, there is some health benefit to having zero alcohol at all in your system, but for me, it wasn't a matter of like, oh, I'm used to drinking 1 or 2 drinks a night or every single weekend. So it wasn't like I was like gaining from that as much, but it was the impact it had on my wallet. And what I mean by that is, me and my fiance we'll go out for dinner, usually at least once or twice a week. And sometimes it's with friends, sometimes it's just the two of us, whatever it is. And when you're having 1 or 2 drinks every single time you go out, that's, $20-$30, depending on the drink you're having and where you're drinking. That's a lot of money that adds up if you're doing that twice a week, every single week. And so for that month, I found that, how much I was spending was definitely significantly less. And it wasn't just the fact of what I was spending it on, but it's also like, well, if I'm not drinking and a bunch of people are going out this weekend and they're drinking, you actually tend to not go to those kinds of social events as much. And so you end up saving money on just going out and that sort of thing. So it actually really did help with that side of it. Do you miss out on some social gathering things? You can, if you can handle going out and being sober in environments where people aren't, which I'm usually pretty comfortable with. That's fantastic. And if not, then it's kind of just forces you to stay indoors or find other things to do, which we ended up doing. And I was diving into work a little bit more, maybe watching movies, that sort of thing. But yeah, it had a really big positive impact on the bank account, which was awesome. Number 4, this is a quote from a YouTube video that I watched. That was Alex Hormozi. And he said, values are only valuable when they are tested. So I'll say it one more time. Values are only valuable when they are tested. And what he means by that is he's basically saying that you can say you have all the values in the world. You can say you're somebody who's faithful. You can say that you're somebody who's healthy. You can say that you're somebody who's active. But until you're in a moment or a situation where that value is actually being tested, it doesn't mean anything. And in that moment, that's when your values show. And so the example he uses is you can say that you're a loyal person, but until you're at a party having drinks and there's a girl flirting with you or wanting to hook up with you or whatever, and you have a significant other at home, until you actually are in that situation and then your values show that you're loyal, it's all just talk, right? Until you're, if you say I'm a healthy person, until you're in a situation where you're out with people and there's junk food or candy or alcohol and you say no, it's all just talk. So it was just a concept that I really liked, because I feel like a lot of times we say that we have these values, yet our actions don't always align with them. And so I was actually having dinner with a mentor of mine who is a coach up at the university. He's the women's coach, Neil Sedgwick, and we were talking about the difference between values and beliefs. And it was kind of this definitive line that your beliefs are things that you want to be, almost like, you can have the belief that eating healthy is important, but the value of eating healthy is actually shown by your actions. So your beliefs and your values are quite different. I might have the belief that, being sober is the best way to live, but if I'm if I'm still drinking alcohol on the weekends and partying, then that's not my values. It's my belief maybe, but it's not a value I have. And so I think that was a really great insight, because there is a difference between the two. And sometimes people will say your values and beliefs in the same sentence as though they're the same, but they aren't the same. Ultimately, your beliefs are things that you think, whereas your values are the ways that you actually act and the actions that you take. Number 5, impact of running every single day. This was interesting because obviously, the obvious one, I got more fit for sure. Running 5 kilometers in general was easier on day 1 than it was on day 30 from like a, I guess, cardiovascular perspective. And, if I was to go run 5 kilometers tomorrow after having taken a couple of days off, because obviously I ran for 30 days straight, took a couple of days off, that sort of thing, I would be a significantly more fit tomorrow than I was when I first started the journey or when I was 1 week in. So that's a given. But another thing that I sort of realized was that my body is a lot more capable of certain things than I thought. Like I was, after running the first 3-4 days, I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. You get to day 6, 7, and you start to get sore. You get to day 9 or 10, and you're like, man, I'm more fit, but my body's hurting, my knees are hurting, my back, whatever it is. But I couldn't stop. There was no stopping. The challenge was 5K every day, and I'm sticking to it. And you realize that your body can actually push through a lot of things. Like all of a sudden I'm running, and after 5 or 10 minutes into my run, all right, I feel good again, and adrenaline's pumping and this sort of thing. And then you finish the run and you're like, oh man, I'm sore. How am I going to do this again tomorrow? Yet you just get up and you find a way. So your body is actually capable of a lot more than you give it credit. And I think that's that idea of like, when you hear about these people who can just push through pain, push through discomfort, and their bodies hold up, it's because our bodies are actually capable of a lot more than we give credit, especially when you're taking care of them, which obviously this challenge combines so many great aspects for my body in terms of diet, in terms of recovery and the cold plunge and that sort of thing. So yeah, that was really just kind of cool to experience and see. And the last piece on this was running every day. You realize how much your mindset going into any activity plays a factor. Like going into my runs, the mornings where I was like excited to do it, maybe I walked into the gym and saw somebody I knew and they kind of gave me that little bit of positive affirmation, or maybe there was a podcast or a YouTube video that I was actually really excited to just be able to like dial into that for 25, 30 minutes undisturbed. Those days, the runs went by so fast. They were so easy. I wasn't necessarily pushing myself for every single run. I was trying to do it at a pace where I felt like I could sustain that for 30 days. But like those runs, you just found yourself running a little bit quicker and just pushing the tempo a little bit more because you're like, oh, this is fantastic. And then there's some days where you kind of walk in with the mindset of like, man, I don't want to be here. This run's going to feel like forever. It's going to take forever. There's nothing I want to listen to. And I would literally be running and like switching podcasts every like 2 minutes because I felt like bored or I couldn't watch it or whatever. I'd start a YouTube video and I'd be like, yeah, I just need to entertain myself. So I'd watch like Hot Ones or one of the YouTube videos that I enjoy, and I just found myself not enjoying them. Like it was just a total mind shift, or I guess mindset shift. Sorry, and it was really from that. And a really good example was Scott McWalter, who was on the podcast, my last episode. One morning I saw him there. It was the 29th. So it was the second last day. And I had gone in there with the mindset of, man, I'm sore. I'm tired. We're at the end of this. Like, let's just get through it. Whatever, go at a steady pace. You'll get through it. You'll be fine. And I saw him and he was doing, I think he was running a half marathon on the track, which is incredible. And he said to me, he's like, day 29, right? And I was like, yep, almost there. He's like, has to be your best one yet. And just him saying that to me, I was like, damn. All right, he's told me it's got to be the best one yet, and that's a challenge, and he's there, and it was like this motivation, and I pushed myself, and all of a sudden it was my fastest 5K run of the month on day 29, where I'm probably the most sore I've been. And so, yeah, the mindset, it's just such an incredible thing that, if you can get it right, it'll help you. And it's not just for running, that's for anything. The mindset when you're going into work, the mindset when you're going into spending time with family and friends, like shifting your mindset can just be massive. Next, the impact of cold plunging every day. So I've said this so many times, but I'm going to say it one more time for the people in the back who haven't heard yet. It never gets easier. Like, it really doesn't, at least in the sense that there's no consistency or I don't know what the word I'm looking for. There's no pattern to the difficulty level. It's not like day 1 is 10 out of 10 hard, then day 3 is all of a sudden 9, and then day 7 is all of a sudden 8, and you're working your way down. Like, no, like day 1 might be the easiest plunge ever at, the tub's at 14 degrees. So it's not even too cold out yet, blah, 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 whatever. And then all of a sudden you get to day 4, and now it's the exact same circumstances, yet it feels impossible to get in the cold water. You don't want to do it. You just have no motivation to do it. And then all of a sudden 2 weeks later, when we're into the dog days and, it started getting to like -6, -7, the water was like down to probably like 8 degrees, 9 degrees. And no problem. Get in, don't feel that cold, catch my breath after 30, 45 seconds, and I'm in it. And then it's just like, there was no pattern. It was really strange. And in the last, 10 days, we had some terrible weather in Prince George. I was looking at anywhere from -14 to -20 on the coldest day, I think. I'm having to crack the ice in the morning. I'm having to add water to get the temperature, I tried to keep it around 7 to 9 degrees, just because of, maintenance, of course, because if I left it at 1 or 2 degrees by the next morning, it would freeze over. And also just for, I guess, bearability, like the ability to actually get through the cold plunge and do the 3 minutes. But anyways, we're in these days where it's like minus 15, minus 18, and I'm walking out in like, foot of snow, no shirt on. I'm just in my bathing suit, and you're freezing, and it feels like you're just miserable. And then you get in the plunge, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this isn't too bad. And so my whole takeaway is from that kind of long-winded story is that it's almost like the biggest thing for me with the cold plunge was to just get over that hurdle. Because every day there was a hurdle, just some days it was bigger, some days it was smaller. And so that for me was the benefit. It wasn't necessarily the health benefits that come with cold plunging. There wasn't the mental health benefits that they say exist and that I feel or notice exist. It was that idea that you just overcome this hurdle, and so now you're just primed for the rest of the day to say, yeah, you know what, I can overcome that hurdle because I already did one tough thing. Why can't I do another one? So yeah, it also enabled my ability to make those tough decisions later in the day, because I was like, well, I've already made tough decisions today and I know I can do it. So if there's a challenge in front of me, I know I can get past it. And it kind of loops really nicely into a Huberman quote, where basically he's talking about how the importance of doing difficult things by choice is that when you're faced with a situation where you have to do something difficult and it's not by choice, you already can tell yourself the story that I might not know how I'm going to get past this, but I know I can get past difficult things, so I'm going to be able to get past this difficult thing. And I think that's just like a really powerful way of looking at it. So let's jump down to number 7. Oh, this was a fantastic quote that I think it was from a podcast I was listening to. I can't remember who it was, but I thought it was incredible. And so the quote is, automate the fundamentals of the craft before you can worry about the next level of performance. So one more time. Automate the fundamentals of the craft before you can worry about the next level of performance. And so what they're talking about here is, the example he gives is, he's talking about a basketball player. And he's saying before you can talk about tactics and game plan and all these different things, as a basketball player, you need to be able to dribble a basketball without thinking. You need to be able to not have to look at the basketball. You be able to think, scan the court, all these different things. And what he's explaining is that that's the fundamental. The fundamental of that is dribbling a basketball. That needs to be automated. That needs to be just on lock before you can then talk about running plays and all these different things. And it was same with another example you used was chess. Like, you need to know how all the pieces move before you can even begin to think about creating a strategy and thinking multiple steps ahead and that sort of thing. And I think that translates so well just outside of the world of sport, because obviously it's incredibly relevant for the world of sport, but into the world of business and just so many different areas. Like, you have to automate whatever the fundamental thing you need to do. For a photographer, you need to know how to operate your camera, and that has to be just second nature for you before you can start to think about, okay, now I get creative in different angles and maybe I add lighting and all these different things, right? For me as a marketer, I need to automate the use of the social media platforms. I need to understand how to post. I need to understand where I need to get my settings right. I need to know how to run a paid ad. I need to automate all those things before I can then do the next level of performance, which is, improving the quality of the content and finding ways to extend reach and all these different things. So just automating the fundamentals before you can worry about whatever comes after that is massive and one of my favorite lessons from the 30 days. Okay, number 8. We're almost there. Impact of no sugar. This one, for anybody who knows me, this was huge. It was difficult beyond belief because I am a sugar junkie. I have the biggest sweet tooth. It's something I've been trying to reduce, I'd say for a year now. I've been trying to, minimize the amount of sugar I have. I've stopped drinking pop for the most part, and maybe like on a weekend, that sort of thing, but replaced it with bubblies, which I'll always have on hand. I tried to find ways of, okay, let's go to a dark chocolate. I'll eat 85% dark chocolate versus having like normal chocolate, try and reduce the amount of sugar, these sorts of things. And I've tried this for years and it's gotten better, but these 30 days of zero pop, dessert, candy chocolate was so difficult. The cravings were so real. But what I found was this did get easier. Like throughout the month, there were fewer cravings, and the cravings weren't so strong. Whereas the beginning, it was almost like every chance I got, I was like, I miss candy. I want candy, that sort of thing. Whereas as I got into like, week 3, it was kind of like, oh, if something really reminded me of it, or maybe I walk past something that, triggered a thought about a candy, that might happen. But it wasn't like I would just be sitting on the couch being like, man, I really need a sweet right now. And 2 things that made that so possible. The first was just removing all sweets from the house. Like I basically just said, okay, if I'm going to do this, I can't have anything within reach, because if there's a moment of true weakness, it's going to be so difficult for me to stick to it. And so shout out Erin for allowing me to remove everything out of the house, because it meant she also wasn't allowed to have sweets in the house. But basically that was like game changer. Number 1, 100%. Second thing, which goes hand in hand, and this comes back to the formation of habits, is replacing it with something. So I actually, my brother-in-law told me to try frozen grapes. Game changer. Put some grapes in the freezer. Whenever I was kind of having a little bit of a craving, take them out, snack on them. It feels like a popsicle. They're sweet. It was awesome. It was like such a good hack for me. As I said, bubblies are always on hand. So yeah, just finding ways to replace the sweets. So whenever I do have a craving, I have an option. And also I don't have a bad option. It's only good options, which are fruit, frozen fruits, bubblies, that sort of thing. And basically the funny thing was, as soon as I was able to have sweets again, which was 3 days ago now, the day I was able to, the day the challenge ended, I had sugar, I had like a donut, I had a glass of wine at dinner, and then I had some sweets in the evening, and I felt like trash. Like I just felt so bad, and it was like I hadn't had a crash in 30 days. Like really, like there was days where I was a little bit more tired or less tired, but I hadn't had a real crash in so long that I forgot what it was like, and I felt terrible. And I was like, man, I don't miss this. Do I miss the candy? Yeah. Do I miss the ice cream? Yeah. But do I miss this feeling? Not a chance. And so my whole takeaway from this whole no sugar thing is 0 sugar sustainable? Maybe not, at least not for me. But is it going to reduce the amount of sugar I have and make me a little bit more thoughtful? 100%. Like I'm only 3 days into December now, where I could have all the freedom in the world. Most people would probably just go off the rails the first 3 days back. And yet here I am, like, not really wanting to have a ton of candy or dessert. Well, we went for dinner the other night, and did I have a dessert after? Yeah, it was fine. I had dinner and then I had dessert. But like there was times today where, I went to go to the little cafe to get a drink, and it was like, oh, well, I could get this treat, but I'm not going to, because I don't actually need it. I don't have, candy in my pocket or my bags. Like the house has not been restocked, and we just did groceries and we didn't restock with a bunch of candy. We actually just kept the fruit going. We bought grapes again. Like it really does change the way you start to, I guess, approach how much sugar you want to eat, and also just appreciate the way you feel when you are eating healthy. Number 9. This one I was really excited to talk about. So this was actually from one of the videos, or I guess when I was posting my vlogs, I was using voiceovers from like podcasts and other videos that I really liked. And so this one is from Alex Hormozy and Chris Williamson, and they're talking about something called the lonely chapter. And so the way they explain it is the lonely chapter is like this kind of period in your life that anybody who's ever gone from where they were to where they want to be has experienced. And it's like the way they define it is you don't quite fit in with your old set of friends, but you're not, sufficiently developed enough in this new habits and way of life that you've made new friends that align. And so you're kind of in this lonely chapter. I don't love the example that they use because I have my own take on it. I understand what they're saying is, but for me, it was actually a little bit different. Like my friends that I have are still my friends, and I get on with them fantastically. I saw them throughout the 30 days. Since I've been trying to push my business, I've made these kind of changes, and I still have my friends. So it's not so much that you don't fit in with your friends. I think it's more along the lines of you're doing things that require so much sacrifice and so much discipline and so much time that you just don't have the same time that you would normally spend with those friends. So I don't have the same amount of time to go out Friday night and Saturday night on a weekend, or I can't afford to be hungover on a Saturday because I got, 2 video shoots and I got to edit a bunch of content on Sunday, or that sort of thing. So I think that for me is where that lonely chapter piece comes in. It's not that you can't fit in with your friends or that you have to change your friends. It's just, for me, it's that you have to adjust the way and the amount of time you're spending with people because there are other responsibilities on your plate. And so that's where the sacrifice piece comes in. And I think this is a big piece, is anybody who's ever achieved anything great has sacrificed something. And so it's just how much and what are you willing to sacrifice. And so for me, there has to be an effort now to say, okay, I need to make sure I make time for the people I care about and people I want to see, because that's important to me. That's something I have a belief in, and that's a value to me. And that's why throughout this whole process, I still made effort, regularly to see my friends. But just knowing that there's going to be periods where you're not going to get to spend as much time with them, or you're not going to get to do as many fun things. You're going to have to sacrifice for not a week, not a month, but year or years of certain things in order to achieve something great. And so there was this one piece that I really wanted to share, which was basically Alex Hormozi saying he gets excited when things get harder, because the harder it gets, the more he knows that less people are likely to follow. And so that means you're now getting into, rare air. You're getting into the places that less people are going to get to because you're doing the things that are difficult. And I thought that was pretty cool because, when you get through that and to the other side, the people who are there with you are probably going to be very similar and aligned to your values and your beliefs, because you know how difficult it was to get there, to do that, right? And so, maybe it's somebody who's a marathon runner. When you go to these marathons that require qualifying, you know that every person who's there had to qualify for that marathon. And so that means that those people are probably more aligned with the same types of values and beliefs you have. And I think this is why athletes create such incredible bonds with their teammates, because they know how difficult it is to get to that level of sport, right? University athletes, professional athletes, they know what it took to get there, which means anybody who is also there, they have an immense amount of respect for. And they also know as they're doing it and as they're going through the hard things, there's that little bit of excitement like, oh, this is so hard. So many people are going to quit. So I just have to not quit, and I'm going to be, that next level up. So I thought that was my twist on the lonely chapter, but then also a great take from the sacrifice piece and things being difficult. And number 10, our last one. This one is a quote, again, that I really liked from Chris Williamson. Consistency doesn't guarantee that you'll be successful, but not being consistent will guarantee that you won't have success. So again, I'll read it one more time. Consistency doesn't guarantee that you'll be successful, but not being consistent guarantees that you won't have success. And basically what he's saying here is you can do all the right things. You can be consistent. You can be disciplined. You can do all the hard work. You can do it all and consistently do it. And it doesn't mean you're going to achieve the goal, right? Like, I was very fortunate that I reached the goal of, originally it was actually 2,500. And then I was like, okay, maybe that's a bit ambitious. Let's go 2,000. And so I reached my goal of 2,000. But I very easily could have not achieved that, even though I was consistently posting. I was doing the challenge. I was running consistently, cold plunging consistently. I didn't have any alcohol. Like, I did everything. I was consistent. But I could have very easily fell short. It was like the last, I think it was inside the last 12 hours where I actually got past the 2,000 mark. And then we had a nice little jump from some generous donations to get us to 2,200. But I very easily could have not gotten there. However, if I didn't post at all or irregularly, and if I wasn't consistently putting on my story, and if I wasn't actually completing the challenge, I can almost guarantee you that I would not have hit the $2,000 in donations, because so many people openly said that they donated because they felt inspired and they wanted to see me achieve my goal because they saw that consistently. And on top of that, if I wasn't posting consistently, I might not have reached all those same people, because every single post that I have, I would say almost every single one had a different number of likes. Every single one definitely had a different number of views. And those likes were from different people. Meaning some people might have seen my post from day 1, 7, 12, 18, 22. And some people might have seen it from different days. And so being consistent gave me the more opportunity to increase the reach, which is, a little marketing kind of tip hidden in there about the consistency and the importance of it for posting. But so I really just like that the consistency doesn't guarantee that you're going to have the success, but without consistency, you can guarantee you won't. So if you want to give yourself the best chance to achieve your goal, whatever it is, and overcome a challenge or develop a habit, you have to be consistent. That's going to be step one to give you the most likelihood of being successful. So that wraps up basically today's solo episode. Again, there's so many different lessons and quotes and stuff I read, and I wish I could share it all. And maybe we'll tap back into this in later episodes. But it was an incredible journey. I want to thank everybody who supported me through those 30 days, whether that was by donating, whether that was by reaching out and sending an inspiring message to me, whether that was just liking my videos, whether that was just simply watching them, whatever it was. Those are all different forms of support, and I appreciate all the support we had and that we were able to reach our goals. So thank you. And then for everybody who keeps tuning in to unlock your potential, thank you for the continued support. Our last podcast did record numbers for us. And I hope I can keep bringing in people who you guys like to listen to and see and gain value from. And I hope these individual episodes also help you out. So that's it for today. Until next time, thanks for stopping in.